Alrighty, Shalom Uvracha, friends. Thank you so much for joining. 1 second, just going to finish setting things up here for a minute. Alrighty. Penny, so good to see you in for just a second. Thank you so much for joining. It's been a very long period of time since we got to learn together. I hope that everybody had the most remarkable Tishrei experience from Rosh Hashanah through to Yom Kippur, through to Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, Shmini Yatsaris. And before we jump into the Torah that we're going to be learning, it's a very unique Torah, and I'll speak a little bit more about it in a minute. But I just want to mention a feeling that a lot of Chevra have oftentimes when it comes to this time of year. And hopefully we all had an exhilarating experience with all the Yomim Tovim and all the mitzvahs and the Sukkah and the Daled Minim and all the Hargashos, those feelings on Simchas Torah, Hoshana Rabbah. I hope that we had the privilege of davening in Minyanim, where you can feel all of the emotions that these tefillas are supposed to serve as vessels for. And then there's a certain feeling that people often have where we come out of that and there's a sentiment like, where do we go from here? Like what's next? And what are we left with? And how can we go from such a high all of a sudden to like, we're taking down the sukkah? And it's a little bit sad. And it's a little bit like you feel maybe even like it's like depressing a little bit. And thank you so much for joining. So, right, so this is like an interesting thing. What happens now? And so I was speaking with somebody earlier today, and I was so happy that he was ma'or this because it came out in conversation, and it popped into my head to say this, and I think that it's very strong, and I've been mechazik myself with this a lot. You know, in colleges, especially higher colleges, Ivy League colleges, at the end of a long period of time of study, a couple of years in Chevra going for either very prestigious law degrees or medical degrees, at the graduation, there's something called a commencement ceremony. They even refer to the graduation at the very end as the commencement. And they have commencement addresses, lengthy addresses that sort of reflect on the previous years and talk about the future. To commence means to begin. And graduation, of course, comes at the end of a process of study. But the reason they call it a commencement is because the whole reason you were in this program is so that ultimately you can come to a place where now you've been educated enough, or now you know enough where you can take everything you've learned and apply it. And so in a certain way, it's the end, but gewalt, it's the beginning. It's a commencement, right? It's the end of that period of study, but ultimately that whole time that you were learning was only to realize that you were only ever going somewhere. It was only a stop along the way. And so in a certain way, all the Chagei Tishrei, it's like a little bit of a college. It's like a little bit teaching us how to be a Jew, how to have Rosh Hashanah. Just the premise is the realization of the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Melucha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be Mekabel all Malchus Shemayim upon ourselves. Yom Kippur, we ask for Slicha, Mechila, and Kapara. It's very much Yira oriented, and we're afraid, and there's Yiras Chet, and we realize that this is not what I want to do, this is not how I want to live. And the Sukkot, of course, is tremendous pouring of Ava. The whole Sukkot is Mayim, the whole thing, Nisach HaMayim, and Simchas Beis HaShoeva, to draw the Mayim. Mayim is Ava, it's love, it's flowing forth with incredible force of Ava, Rabbah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hoshana Rabbah, and in Shmini Yatsar, Simchas Torah, V'samachta b'chagecha, the Chag of Simcha, and the Daled Minim, shaking, Kol Atzmoisai Tamarna, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, it's not that we come out of that period of time and we're left with nothing. We come out of that period of time and we're left with that period of time inside of us, inside of our hearts. And the Daled Minim, like my Rebbe, Rabbi Feldman teaches, the Daled Minim become embodied. All of those limbs and all of those Evari Haguf that the Daled Minim correspond to now actually become embodied in a sense that my lave is now an esrog. I didn't put down the esrog. The esrog became a part of me. And my spine is the lulav. And my lips is the adasim, and the eyes are the aravas. And so it's not that we're departing from it, we've inculcated it, and now we really move into the ikr, which is the winter, which is dark, which is no chagim all the way until Chanukah. It's a long stretch now. And that this is the pinnacle of what it is to be a Jew, is just the mundane, regular 9 to 5, day to day, husbands, fathers, friends, community members, being a person, being a human being, working, all of the different inyanim of what it is to be human, that's the pinnacle. It's a shift. That's the essence. It's not that the Yamim Naram, like this is it, and then the rest of the year is downhill from there. Adarabba. This is the commencement. Now we're beginning. So with that Hakdama, it's such a privilege to jump into the third year of the inner dimension shiur. What a privilege, Mamish. And we're going to be learning a very, very special lesson today. Mamish, very special. And just by way of Hakdama to what this Torah is and what Sefer this Torah is from and what we're going to be doing this year with the Sefer. So Be'ez Hashem, I'll announce it a little bit later today, tonight, maybe tomorrow, that this year I'm going to be partnering with Meaningful Minute, the Siyata Deshmai and Nachi Gordon's program that reaches tens of thousands of Jews, Mamish, all over the world. It's something so special and phenomenal. And so I'm going to be partnering with Nachi and Meaningful Minute on a very special series of Parsha videos based on the Torah of the Tosher Rebbe. The Tosher Rebbe was niftar a couple of years ago from Montreal. One of the Chavros said he's tuning in from Canada, so it's not from Toronto, it's not so far from you. And the Tosher Rebbe has a sefer called Avodas Avodah. There are many different volumes in the sefer. There's Dibros Kodesh, Peskami Kodesh, Sichas Kodesh, Imres Kodesh. But this particular sefer, I have it sitting right over here. It's called Peskami Kodesh, Avodas Avodah, and it has a couple of shorter pieces on every single parsha. It's a 3-volume set, this particular edition of Avodas Avodah. And the most unique Torahs, and I'd learned a little bit from the Tosher Rebbe in the past, but now that I was preparing, I had to learn the whole Sefer Bereishis because we're shooting on Sunday morning for the whole Sefer Bereishis. I had to prepare and writing up scripts the past week. So I was just learning this, carrying the Sefer with me wherever I went. And it's incredibly unique. It's incredibly unique. This Sefer is incredibly beautiful and unique. And I think one of the most beautiful things about the Sefer is that it's deep, and it's theological and it's theoretical, not theoretical, but it's very, very deep, but it's super practical. And every Torah, he at the end shows us how we can take these ideas and how we can mamish put it into practice in the simplest, most wondrous way. And I can tell you on a personal level, the Avodas Hashem that I've been able to draw from the Sefer and the slavos and the chiyas and the passion and the fire and the hadracha and the eitz and the yashers, the Yerushalayim that comes out of every word in the Sefer, it's mamish changed my life. My life is being changed all the time, hopefully. But literally, this Sefer is a game changer. So we're going to be learning a lot from the Sefer, both in the context, hopefully, if you're on Meaningful Minute, and I'll be sharing them also via LPI, but hopefully via those 5-minute, 6-minute videos every single week. But in the context of our Parsha shiur, I'm going to be drawing a lot from this Sefer because it's, in my opinion, it should be a classic. And if you can get your hands on the Sefer and learn it, we're going to be doing one piece, but there's about 6 or 7 or 4 or 5. Every week has a bunch of different pieces. It's so kedai. It is so kedai. It's sweeter than honey, as you'll see. And so even though this is a piece that I only recently learned a couple of days ago, it might be one of my favorite pieces in Chassidus, Bechlal. And I really mean that. And I say that about every piece that I learn, but I really mean it about this piece. I really think that it's one of the most foundational pieces, one of the sweetest pieces. And so without further ado, let's jump into this teaching from the Sefer Avodas Avodah. I'm going to share my screen so we can see it together. It's a lot, but it's also it'll flow, as you'll see. Okay, so let me just open this up here, 1 second. Okay. So let's jump in. B'siyata d'shmaya chevra. I hope that you're with me. I don't see any of your faces, but I see your names. And the name of a person contains the whole person. And so it's a privilege, mamish, to be sitting with you. And thank you all for joining me. What a schus. What a schus. Sefer Bereishis, Parshas Bereishis. What a privilege. His chadshas to start fresh. Unbelievable. So let's dive in. Says the Heilige Tosher Rebbe schus yagun aleinu. Bereishis bara elikim es hashmayim es haaretz, on the very first pasuk. Kvar diktu al mefarshim. He says that the Mefarshim analyze this pasuk and they wonder, bara. Why is the word bara used in the context of the creation of heaven and earth? Yatsar, ayasa. The Hebrew language is so phenomenal, Lashon HaKodesh is so incredible that there are many concurrent words that you can use for any given idea. And so the word create or made has a bunch of different options. We can use bara, we can use Yatsar, we can use asa, all of which are forms of words that mean to create. So why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu begin the Torah with Bereishis bara elikim es hashmayim es haaretz, with this form of a word that means to create? And he says a stronger kasha is that if you would find the word bara consistently used throughout creation, applied across every single pratistic creation, beautiful. So then we'd still have a question, but at least it would be consistent. But the question gets so much stronger when the pasuk says Yatsar Hashem Elikim as Adam, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu formed man. So if in the context of man the word Yatsar is used, then why in the context of the creation of the natural world is the word bara used? And the same question is the opposite. Why isn't the word bara used when HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates man? And he fortifies this understanding that Yetzira has a particular relationship with man, like we say, Vayasim Shamas Adam Asher Yatsar. Again, that word Yatsar is used a second time, and all of us say this incredible bracha that we make over this wonder of being able to use the facilities. We come out of the bathroom and we say Asher Yatsar es Adam. Again, the word Yatsar is used and not the word bara. Why the distinction? And he says it's also brought in the Heilige Svarim HaKadoshim. What a privilege to learn Torah. What a simcha to learn Torah. What a privilege. The Torah is so clear and it's so deep and it's so emes, and we need nothing else. What a privilege. So he says, it's brought in the Holy Svarim, Bara Elokim v'loy Hashem. This incredible thing that Hashem has different terms and different forms through which he reveals himself that are called the different Shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's the Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is associated with Chesed, and there's the Shem Elokim, which is associated with Gvura, with Din. So why does it say Bereishis Bara Elokim and not Bereishis Bara Yud Kei Vav Kei Hashem v'chein b'chol seder habriya l'nisker Shem Havaya? We do not see throughout the entire creation of the physical, natural world with all of its components that the word Yud Kei Vav Kei is used. Only the word Elokim, Vayar Elokim as archetype, and so on and so forth throughout creation. Why? Again, the distinction that over here in creation, the name Elokim is used as opposed to the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. So here he answers these two questions, and he says we can explain this, what Siyata Shmaya, an incredible Hashgacha, Behek Demashe Pirish B'Sefer HaKadosh Kedushas Levi, the Heilige Berditchever, whose yahrzeit is right now in Eretz Yisrael. Already the yahrzeit is in the world, even if you're not privileged to sit in Yerushalayim, even though you're all here with me on some level, but if you're not physically here, still the yahrzeit is in the world. The yahrzeit is in the world, today, tomorrow, the 25th of Tishrei. So the Heilige Berditchever says, Chazal say in Avodas, Kol Masha Bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olamai, whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in his world, again the word Bara, Loi Bara, Ela L'chvoidai. This is what Chazal say, it's a mission of Avodas, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, I believe. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in his world, he created for his kavod. So again, why is the word bara used? If we could also say Kol Masha Yatsar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olamai Lo Yatsar Ela L'kvoidai. Why is this word bara used again to refer to the creation of the physical world? And he answers, Al Pi Masha Kasav Rambam Zal B'Sefer HaMoreh. Listen to this, Chaver, it's so deep. I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite pieces of Hasidus, maybe if not the. I think it's so fundamental, and okay, you could say this about 1,000 different teachings, but really, if you had one teaching to teach someone that really encapsulates like all of Hasidus, the depth and the clarity and the broad-mindedness and the big picture focus, it's mamish this piece. It's mamish, this is a piece to take home. It's not just, it's another great example of how Hasidus, and the Tosher Rebbe makes this point in another parsha in Lech Lecha, but it's not just like the Baal Shem didn't come to the world to say little cute vertlach and different psukim. The Baal Shem came to the world to transform our consciousness with all of these different teachings that communicate essentially the same message at the core. And this teaching, mamish, encapsulates that message. So what a privilege. So he says over here, he wants to answer this question as well, which again is reflective of the question that we began with. The Heilige Gemara Nevuchim Al Maimer HaKasav, the pasuk says in Yeshaya, Yatsar Or Uvoirei Choshech. It's a pasuk that says Yatsar Or, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created light, and over here the word Yatsar is used, Yatsar, Uvoirei Choshech, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates Choshech, darkness, and over here the word Boire is used. Okay, so now we can start to understand a little bit more about the distinction between Yatsar and Bara. Yatsar is connected to light, and Bara is used in association with darkness. So reason to believe that by understanding the distinction between light and darkness, we can then understand the difference and distinction between Yatsar and Bara, which are associated with these two elements. V'diktek, And the Rambam says, Lama be'inyan ha'ar amar lashon yatsar. Why is the word yatsar used in the context of the creation of light? Ube'inyan ha'chayshach amar lashon bara. Why is that? Uperish. Okay, so here we come to the answer. Uperish kiba ar shayich in yitzira. It's only in the creation of light that we can use this word yitzira. Why? Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu yatsar va'asa es ha'ar laha'ir. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu formed light. Light was formed. Light was fashioned. Both translations of the word yatsar, formed and fashioned, as an independent creation that has its own features, that does something, that's positive in nature in terms of what it's supposed to do in the world. It has a function, it's therefore a purpose, a positive purpose. You can't say the same thing about darkness, because darkness doesn't have its own positive form. Darkness is only created in the void of light. Darkness doesn't have its own actual creative element. There was darkness in the beginning of the world. Doesn't say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created darkness. There just was darkness. Darkness is only the void of light. In the vacuum of light, we have darkness. It's actually interesting because the Machlokes is Rishonim about this. I think machlokes between the Ramban and the Rambam with regard to whether choshech is its own creation. But al kapanim, the Rambam over here speaks about the element in which choshech is only the void of light. Or boire. That's why we're able to use the word and the lashon of creation that means boire. Why? Ki boire humi lashon stay bur, because the word bara means to create, but it's also associated, like most words in Lashon HaKodesh, have many, many different associative meanings, right? And they're able to relate to so many different terms that have the same letters. And that's able to tell us the nuanced beauty of this one word, that it has so many different facets to it based on its relation to other similar words. So what's the word boire related to? He says the word boire is related to the word stay bur, or a bar, a pit. But stay bur means an empty field. It's Gemara in Eruvin, Jepirusha stay reikon, an empty field. Mishnah, ein bur yarechet. A person that's devoid of knowledge, a person that is an Amma Aretz is called a bur. Why? Because he's empty. The word bar is an empty pit. It's a vacuum. It's a vacancy. What is a pit? A pit is nothing, right? A pit is created mimela, like choshech is created mimela. When you go ahead and extract earth from a certain place, good, you have a pit. Where's the pit? The pit is in the void. There's a very, very deep concept. And this is why we say Yatsar ar boire choshech, because darkness is only the lack of light. Just like a pit is a lack of earth. Just like an empty field is called a stay bur. Just like a person that's devoid of intellect is called a bur, ein bur yarechet. This is the lashon boire, is related to the word bur. V'zeu uboire choshech. That's how choshech is created, is in the void and in the vacuum of light. Okay, so now we understand what the word bara is. So now let's try to bring it back to the first question. Why does that HaKadosh Baruch Hu use the word bara in the context of the creation of heaven and earth? But he uses the word yatsar in the context of the creation of Adam. Listen to this brilliant thing. Mom is so deep and so sweet and so delicious and precious. Again, it was Yatsar is tonight. The Heilige Berditch versus Chusya Gunleinu. Alpi this Yisod explains that Maimer Hanal. Kol mashe bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in this world, with the word boire, loy bara ela l'chvoida. He only created. Now we understand what the word boire means and what the connotation of the word boire is, but we'll get to that in a second. Al Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, he created it for his glory. Now here's the answer. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu bara es ha'olam ha'idei shetzimtzem es oirei arein soif Baruch Hu. How did God create the world? He didn't create the world in an active sense until he had first taken a formative act, the primordial act, the first act in creation, even before a Shemayim and an Aretz were created, even before Bereishis. What was the first act that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, Chevra? Now Rizal tells us, Tzimtzum, contraction, constriction, the creation of a void within the center point of infinity, whatever this means, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu removed himself, kiviyachal, at least from our perspective. There's the Sod HaTzimtzum, it's the Sod HaBechira, it's very deep, but from our perspective, God removed his presence from this void, and then he drew down a kav, he drew down one line of godliness, along which all of the worlds were created. But the world exists within a void, within a hester panim. The creation of the world was a function of HaKadosh Baruch Hu constricting his presence. And he hid himself in garment after garment after garment. And he hid himself within the creation, a creation that gives off the impression of its being independent, but this independence is only a function of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's having removed himself from this world. Right, and he says, and what was the function of this? It should appear like the world is misnag b'derech hateva, that the whole world is just running on its own for the purpose of bechira, to give us that ability to choose actively, as we're going to learn, to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, to reveal his light in the world, as we're going to see in a minute. V'lachein, says the tzaddik, therefore nikres habriya b'shem oilam. That's why the world is called oilam. Shuhu milashon ha'elam, because the word oilam also means a world, but it connotes hiddenness. It could also mean a form of the word ha'elam, to be hidden. Loimar. This means to say ki abriya nishave al yidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ha'elam histras oira me'ein kol. How was creation even formed in the first place? It was through HaKadosh Baruch Hu hiding his light me'ein kol from everybody, from everything. Betachlis ha'elam hazeh. So what's the point though? What's the reason for this whole process that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took of hiding himself in creation, of removing his light, so to speak, to make room, kiviyachal, for an independent creation and for the consciousness of humanity to descend into this world and need to choose to follow after HaKadosh Baruch Hu against the very real option of denying his presence? Why? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? The tachlis ha'helem hazehi, so that a person should search for HaKadosh Baruch Hu specifically from behind this concealment. And even behind the concealment and the darkness, the void of godliness and of godly light that this world is an expression of. This is the sum total, it's the mission statement. Maybe this is why it's the first piece in the Sefer, and the first piece in Bereishis. This is it. This is the Bereishis. This is the Aleph Beis of Yiddishkeit. That this is exactly what our whole mission is, and what all the mitzvahs are for, and what Limanat Torah is for, and what all of the different elements of Yiddishkeit are for, is for the purpose of enabling us to further and further and further reveal in every generation and through every year and every cycle of the year, and all the different mitzvahs that we go through in our own lives and throughout the cycle of the days and weeks and months and so on and so forth, is ach v'rak, for the purpose of playing this game of hiding or seek with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu from behind the Hester, like the B'ditchever himself said, you and I are playing a game of hide and go seek, and I find you everywhere. And I find you everywhere. That's the tachlis of our avodah in this world. This is the mission statement. This is exactly why we begin the year. We started the shiur with this. This is why we begin every year with the Yaman Noraim that reinforce these concepts. Malchuscha malchus kalalayman. Ribbon Shalom, I want to reveal your malucha from beyond the physical appearance of this world. I don't want chait, that's Yom Kippur. Adarabah, sukkahs, I take a sukkah, I take a few little physical walls and physical plants and schach and bamboo and physical minim, and I conquer the physical world with it. And I turn a little daled amos of my deck, of my porch, of my parking lot, wherever I build a sukkah in my backyard, and I conquer it, and it becomes mamish kanfei Ashreinu, because that's what the sum total or the culmination of this college, right? This training process that's called Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, that now We've learned how to conquer the physical world, how to conquer the human condition, to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. Now we march into the rest of the world for this purpose, to actually live it. And like I said before, the winter is the pinnacle. Adarab of Adarab. It's mamish the pinnacle. Chanukah is the pinnacle. It's the sof of the sof, because we reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence dafka in the darkest depth, dafka in the humanity of our condition. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want malachim. How many of us felt like malachim and Simchas Torah and Yom Kippur? And it's beautiful to taste that for a little bit, but that's not what Hashem wanted. Because in the upper world, it's always Yom Kippur. The reason why we wear white in Yom Kippur, and the reason why mamish, we stand in these long Shemana Esrei with our feet together, is because we're doyim ala malachim, no achila, no shia, and it's very beautiful. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu has Yom Kippur in all the worlds if he wanted it. He didn't want that. He wanted the winter. He wanted a rainy day when you're schlepping to Mariv at 5:30, and it's so dark, and it's so cold, and it's frigid, and there's no inspiration, and just the regular 9-to-5 work day or whatever it is that we're doing, and our parenthood and etc. All of those elements of human life, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. For what purpose? To find HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere. To reveal his presence in the depth. That is what this whole thing is about. The whole thing. And now we could understand Bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai loy bara ela l'chvayday. Dafka, the word bara is used. What is bara? Bara is miloshin bar. Bar is miloshin bur. Bar is miloshin stay bur. This empty field, this element of boirei choshech, darkness that's created not by virtue of its being fashioned as an independent creation, but only as a function of a lack of light. Now we could understand why the word boire is used in the context of this, that we're charged with revealing Hashem's kavod in a world. What kind of world? A world in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so hidden. A world which is an inyan of Kol Masha Bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai loy bara ela l'chvayday. Kol Masha Bara ba'olamai. Ba'olamai is be'helem. Helem is hidden. And the inyan of the Bara is the inyan of bar. It's a world that's created dafka through the constriction of light, through the contraction of light. So everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in his world in a way of bar, in a way of this nekuda of emptiness, to remove his light from the world or to conceal his light from the world. Sheyehi nireh ki'ilu meir boy ar ein so, she'ikilu ein meir boy ar ein so, that it should appear. We skipped a line. Pirish Masha HaKadosh Baruch Hu asas olamai bur v'reik. This, that God created a world that appears to be empty. She'enirakilu ein meir by our himself, that we can't find God, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is concealed. You know why he did this? Kol Masha Bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai bara. Lo asas ois elu l'chvayday. The reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this is to enable us as independent human consciousness beings in this world to reveal his malchus and his glory and his presence in the world. This is the term of the Berditch around the yard sides. What a privilege. And this is also this nekuda that we say, and we should bless us. We should be by many, many weddings, and those that need to find their zivik should find their zivik car of mamish. And we should dance at each other's weddings, preferably here in Yerushalayim. So we say the Berachas nesuin shahakol bara l'chvayda. Again, not hakol asa l'chvayda, hakol bara l'chvayda. Pirish shakadosh baruch hu asa kach shahakol yehei nire bur v'reik ne oiroi shahidei. That's this sod of why we say Yatsar R uboire choshech bar miloshin boire miloshin bar miloshin stay bur miloshin in bur yarechet. Of course, now we can understand our first question. Our pasuk, the very first pasuk in the Torah, Bereishis Bara Elokim. It doesn't say Bereishis Yatsar Elokim, because over here it's a reference to this nekuda in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world lichadchila, where he is hidden and where he is silent and where he does not communicate to us openly in a way of revelation, in this Dara at least. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bara es ha'olam ba'oifen. Hashem created the world dafka in such a way, in a way of bar, in a way that looks like it's devoid and empty of godliness, in a way in which everything that's created in the created world is an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu having emptied out this place within his godliness from that godly light, kiviyachol. in such a way so it should appear as if it's empty of him. And that's why in this world, all we see is physical matter. Everything that covers over. And we get sucked into thinking that this world exists in and of itself. And we spend all of our time worrying about this system and that thing and this, all in politics. We forget, like, what is this world even here for? Like, what is this thing called sight and called speech and called listening and so on and so forth? All of these things, we get dragged into the physicality and the chitzonius of living. And we forget about why we're really here. As an extension of Bereishis Bara Elikim, that it's Yatsar R Uboire Chayshech, that it's an Indian of a bar, of a pit, of state bur. This world and the earth, as the pasuk tells us, was sayu v'vayu, was incredibly vacant. The choshech, and there was darkness. Rashi says, what's tayu v'vayu? Shadam taye umishtoimim al bayu shabai. Tayu means to be bewildered, and bayu means emptiness. That a person stands in amazement at how empty this thing is. Bayu lashon reikos, how empty it is. Bayu. How many of us, we go through our lives, and at certain points when we wake up, like the vice story in the story of the lost princess, and we wake up for a second and we ask ourselves, we're in a state of tayu babayu, because we look around and we say to ourselves, how could it be that this world is so empty of godliness? How could it be that we live in such a physical world? How could it be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so hidden? All of which is an extension of Bereishis Bara Elikim as Hashemayim as Haaretz. The Haaretz Haisasayu Vavayu. Therefore, we stand in amazement and bewilderment over the gashmius of the world, over the emptiness that the world seems to be devoid of godliness. Now, how did it happen? And why did it happen? Amar, that's the next few words. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ar Vayehi Ar. Listen to this brilliant way of reading the pasuk. However, it changes the way we read this pasuk, and it changes the whole Yiddishkeit. If we could always just go back to the basics, if we could always just go back to the first pasuk in the Torah to refresh ourselves, it's a little bit of an injection of the Chagei Tishrei. That's why we read Bereishis right after this. It's the same Nakuda. It's a little bit Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Rosh Hashanah wrapped into this one pasuk. Vayomer Elikim Yehi Ar Vayehi Ar. Vayehi, says the Tosher Rebbe, this word Vayehi Moira al Inyan Hatzimtzum. This Vayehi is a reference to the process of constriction through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world by removing himself, Kibiyachol. Why does Vayehi, or why is Vayehi a reference to that process? Because Chazal say in Megillah, Kol Makam Shenemar Vayehi Eina Elaloshin Sar. That the word Vayehi is a reference to Tsar. It's a reference to, and Tsar itself shares the letters Tzadi Resh, of course, which means narrowness, which means constriction. So he reads the words Vayehi Ar as a constriction of light. Vayehi is constriction. Ar is the divine light that filled everything before HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and removed himself Kiviyachol from that place. And so again, let's go back to the beginning. Bereishis Bara Elokim. How were heaven and earth created? Through the process of Bara, which is an Indian of Bar, which is an Indian of Hashem emptying out this place, so to speak, of his godliness. And therefore, v'ha'aretz ha'isasayu v'vayu v'choshech al panei sahayin. Therefore, humans experience the world in a way of tayu v'vayu, like Rashi tells us, like a person who stands in amazement and bewilderment over how empty this world appears of godliness. Tayu v'vayu. Now, how did all this happen? It's because Vayomer Elikim Yehi Ar. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu thought and planned and dreamed and wanted for this world to be created in a way of Vayehi Ar, of a constriction of light, Vayehi Ar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzimtzem es ha'ar v'hilbish v'levushim shaynim sha'yedei zeh nasa habriya tayu v'vayu v'choshech. And this is all the creation of the natural physical world where the word Bara is used, and as we'll see, where the word Elokim is used, which is Moreh all the time, which hints to Hester, to covering over, to Midas Hadin, to the Indian of Tsar, to the Indian of Vayehi. Vayomer Elokim, Yehi Ar, it's the lashon of Tsar, Vayehi Ar, which is the Nakuda of Bria of Bayre. Aval B'Yetziras Ha'adam. But when man shows up on the scene, Kfar Nechtav Gam Loshen Yetzira. Now we're able to utilize this terminology of Yetzira by Yatsar, Asher Yatsar, V'loy Loshen Bara Levad. Why? Because what does man represent? What are we here for? Ki Adam Nivra Kedei Lechapes Achar Or Hashem Hamuster B'Toich Habriya. Because our entire task and our entire mission is to search for the godliness that's hidden in creation. And to reveal that in Hanami the world looks tayu v'vayu, and we're astounded on this, that the world seems to be empty and devoid of godliness, and the Indian of a bar, like a pit, stay bur in bur yarichet, it looks like it's empty of godliness, devoid of light. Bur v'reik mi oiri is barach. The MS. This world doesn't conceal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This world reveals HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the entire purpose of man, period. Mamish, just encapsulated within this one little word, Vayatsar, Asher Yatsar es ha'adam. To make a blessing over the functionality of the human body that enables a person to eat food and to release waste and so on and so forth, very lowly processes. But we come out of the restroom and we dafka use this terminology in the bracha because this is the pinnacle of what it is to be a Jew. Asher Yatsar es ha'adam, to reveal the godliness dafka, not despite, but through the natural functionality of our human functionality and also that of the world. Ki ashalom nira bebechinas bara bur berek mi aris barach beemes oiri is barach memale es kala olam v'yakir ki lesasar poni minei, and to come to the realization and the awareness that there's no place devoid of him, even though it looks that way. The muschol rishon of the job of a Jew is to develop new eyes. The pasuk says Einei Hashem al tzadikim, to develop brand new eyes and a brand new way of looking at the world, to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere, and to realize that even though there was a symptom of the truth is that chalal hapanui, that vacant space is still filled with godliness, and that the world reveals God much more than it conceals his presence. If a Jew looks at the world as in a way of the tzaddikim, and through their lens that they gift us in their teachings, he can find Hashem everywhere, like the Berditchever said. A big game of hide and go seek, and I win all the time. I win because I find you everywhere I look. Like we briefly mentioned, that's why throughout the creation, what word is used? Only Elokim. Elokim, Elokim, Elokim. What's Elokim? That hints to concealment, that hints to judgment. Because that's how the world was created. By Yehi Ar, Yehi Lashon Sar, Yehi Ar, that the Ar should be constricted by Yehi Ar. By Yermer Elokim, Dafke Elokim, Midas Hadin, Gevura, a limit, a boundary. But Aval B'Brias Ha'adam Ksiv, guess what? Not just is the word Yatsar used in the creation of man, but the other name of Hashem is also used only in the creation of man, by Yatsar Havaya Elokim. Both terms are used in the creation of man, hinting to man's mission. Kan kvar nisker gam shem havaya, this name of rachamim, this name of revelation, this name of espashtus, hamoral gilu ha'ar, the revelation of light. Ki ha'adam al yidei avodah megala. Do you know why man was created? To reveal that b'soich hatzimtzum shel shem Elokim, that within and underneath the concealment of the name Elokim, meir ar shem havaya, the light of Yud Kei Vav Kei is shining. And that's why the word Yatsar is used in the context of man, because Yatsar Ar ubayre chayshech. Yatsar Ar, man was created, Asher Yatsar, to reveal the light within the Bereishis Bara Elokim, bayre chayshech, within the darkness and the apparent illusion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's removal of his light from that void within which the world was created, that the name Havaya Elokim is used in the creation of man, because this is our whole task, to reveal the Havaya from behind the veil of Elokim, Nimsa. Listen to this line. Underline this 1,000,000,000 times. This is it. And we can remind ourselves of this every minute. That the tachlis avodas ha'adam ba'olam is shebechol inyan me'inyanei ha'olam shu oisik b'hem. That anything that a person is engaged with on any level of human functionality and the human experience, lo yabet ala davar kamoishu nir le'ena gashmi. Do not look upon that thing. And I bless myself and all of you, but primarily myself. I'm speaking always to myself, that I hope that I don't look at things in a way of le'en gashmi, only the physical, external level. Isn't this what the whole thing is about? What all of Yiddishkeit is about? What the whole derech of the Baal Shem Tov is about? Is to look at the pnimius, to look at the interiority, to look at the hidden light that's beyond the veil of the physical world. Mihu hamachaya oisai, who is present in this world more than anything is present. Karav ata Hashem, Karav Mikol Karav, like the Ibn Ezra says. Mamish revealed. Karav Hashem Mikol Karav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're so close. And to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu hidden and mislavish within that element. Who's bringing this to life? Who created this apple in my hand? Like Rabbi Victor Miller. Who created this? Who created that there should be a concept of heaven and earth and circumstances, situations, and people, and so on and so forth, not simply to go through it, this is life. No, but it's so deep. It's so deep. And this world could conceal God, but this world could reveal God, and it's up to us. Bifrat, he says, or rather, Yicham v'or havaya v'or Hashem hanelam shama. And a person should be mechavan. I'm engaged in this activity to connect to the hidden godliness that's concealed within this activity. Specifically when it comes to things that have an element of pleasure for the body, a person has to be so careful when a person eats and whatever a person sees and so on and so forth. Not to simply be drawn after the chelek haguf and the gashmi, which is relating to a person's external identity that is drawn after this thing. And not to enjoy this thing for his own pleasure, is to always have that consciousness and to say, I'm engaged in this act of eating or sleeping or whatever it is throughout the human experience, so that I can reveal the godliness that's latent in this experience. So that I can find Hashem through this experience, that I can find Hashem through this taste and through this dinner and through this drink and so on and so forth, that I can reveal and be conscious of the fact that everything that I chew, everything that I'm eating, that we should eat mindfully, slowly, and chew things, and to think while we're chewing different tastes, be aware of the different tastes, realize that every single tiny little distinction in the tastes of food and textures of food and colors of food, and this is just eating, it's for everything, is nislavish, the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chesed is something sweet, and gvura is something spicy, and so on and so forth. And a person can get to a level where a person eats. And if it's hard to do this for a whole meal, the first bite, close your eyes, take that bite and eat it slowly, mindfully, consciously, and to be able to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that act of eating. Mamish kipshuta. Umizen, through this, megalik foid malchus ba'olam. Through this, we reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's covenant in the world, that loy bara olamai, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu only created everything in the world in a lashon of bara, a bayre chayshech, is only elalech foida. And he says this is the reason why we have brachas, not for some dogmatic thing to rattle off kemitzvahs anashim l'umada in a way of chitzonius, in a way of the six sons, but rather Chazal were misakin shetiknu lan chachamim. Chazal were misakin brachas kedei legalos al yadam, to enable us to use these tools to reveal yadavar shebal lehenis mimenu, that whatever I'm about to enjoy, whether it's food, whether it's a nice smell, whatever birchas hanenin that we make on wine and so on and so forth, the Kadosh Baruch Hu amachayu mahava isai, to reveal this, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is present in this experience, that Hashem created this and He created it for me, and He exists and He's real and He's present. V'zeh perish baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam kipshutai. Again, this whole piece is back to basics. First pasuk in the Torah, most elemental, foundational idea in all of Yiddishkeit, the mission statement of a Jew. So he says, let's look at the brachas that we make. Let's focus on the words. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Let's take it word for word. Baruch hu lashon hamshacha. The word baruch means blessed are you, right? And there's different machlokes among the Rishonim of what exactly we're saying when we say Baruch Ata Hashem. Hashem is the Makar HaBracha, or blessing Hashem Kiviyachal, and so on and so forth. But he says, on a deeper level, the word Baruch can mean to draw, Hamshacha, to draw down. Miloshin Brecha, like Brecha is a channel. Hamamsheches es hamayim, irrigation channel is called a Bereishis. U'malashon Chazal, hamavrich es hagefen, a person who plants a vine very deeply in the ground to draw down into something. V'zehu baruch. Ribbana shalom, I'm making a bracha to reveal that the reason that I'm eating this food, the primary consciousness of why I'm engaging in this activity is baruch, is to be mamshich. Shetzarach lahamshuch legalos, is to reveal ki ata Hashem Elokeinu. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu. I am making a bracha now to reveal that my eating of this food is only to reveal within the world that ata havaya Elokeinu perish ki bisoich Elokeinu, that underneath the garment of your hiddenness, underneath the garment of your constriction, underneath the garment of your concealment of Bereishis Bara Elokim, hana bisoich shem Elokim, ata havaya muster sham. You Ribbana Shalom, you're hidden there. That's what I'm making a bracha. Baruch, to be mamshich, that ata Hashem Elokeinu, that underneath the garment of Elokeinu is ata Hashem. It's revelation that you only created this illusion of separateness to allow us to come to be aware of you in the most deep way, in the most all-encompassing way, in every element of life, to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the deepest possible way. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu. Umechaya oisadav, are bringing this thing to life. And therefore, va'atahu melech ha'olam. We reveal this element of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's malchus, this element of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, besoch the ha'elam, of the hiddenness of this world. This is a bracha. Baruch, we want to be mamshich, that ata Hashem Elokeinu, that beyond Elokim, beyond the tzimtzum, beyond the constriction, ata havaya Elokeinu, there's revelation in there, and therefore, melech ha'olam. We're revealing and we're being mekabel upon ourselves. You're our melech, you're present, your kavod fills the world, malachal aretz kavod. Can you imagine if we could stop and focus on this interpretation every time we make a bracha? Be a different life. Mamash, a different life. You take a cup of water, and you want to make a bracha over it, and you stop for a second before just rattling it off. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. It's life-changing. Life-changing. If the Baal Shem Tov only came to the world to reveal through his tzaddikim this one interpretation of a bracha, that's it. It would have already changed the whole Yiddishkeit. Mamish. Mamish. I really mean that literally. Sometimes we feel like we need so many teachings and so many books and so many svarim and so many Torahs. The truth is, sometimes all you need is like one little Torah, but that it should go amok bifnim. Mamish amok bifnim. And to encounter tzaddikim who help take these teachings and bring them amok bifnim. And then our life has changed and we live differently. And this is one of those Torahs, one little bracha. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. Hanamasha olam ma'alim al or Hashem. This is the world conceals Hashem's light. Atahu melech shalahelam hazeh. You're king over this hiddenness. You wanted it this way. Because within the hiddenness, ata meir arin soif baruch hu, you're shining. The infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're shining. Dafka through the garments of this concealment. And this is also hinted to the pasuk in the Devarim, Hanastaris la'avaya Elokeinu, which we just read. Hanastaris la'avaya Elokeinu Mishnah Torah. The things that are hidden are for Havaya, for Yud Kevavke. But the revealed things, that's for us. And Chazal use this when they say, don't try to understand what was before the world was created, what was after the world, things that are beyond our ability to understand, beyond time, beyond space, that our minds, our consciousness only works within those constructs. They always use this pasuk, leave the hidden things for God. Okay, that's the simple understanding. Says the Tosher Rebbe, what a privilege to learn his Torah with you. He says, you know what this means? That the hidden things are for Havaya Likenu perish. Shakadosh Baruch Hu histir vehelem l'shem Havaya b'soicha Likenu. That Hanistaros lahavaya Elikenu. Hashem was mastir. Hashem hid Havaya the Shem Yud Kevavke within Elokeinu. That's Hanistaros lahavaya Elikenu. Hashem hid his presence within the concealment of the word Elokim and the Shem Elokim and the hiddenness of nature, which is Gematria Hateva, which is Gematria Elokim. You know why? Because V'haniglos lanu ulvaninu. Shetziva lanu ulvaninu legalos ezos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this consciously on purpose, specifically. All the challenges, all the difficulties, all of this that we go through concealment. Why? Do you know why? Because the task of revealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu is lanu ulvanenu ad olam ad soif kol adaris. That's what we're here for. That's the Jewish enterprise. Not my own tikkun and my own alam ha, but katnus, galus. It's a galus perspective. Is mamish to connect to all of Am Yisrael, b'shem kol Yisrael, l'shem yichud kutzrichu shchinte. It's the same thing. To reveal the Shechina, to reveal Malchus, to reveal the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all the same thing. To reveal within ourselves, to reveal it within the world at large. V'haniglas. To find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lanu ulevanenu ad olam. Ke avodas zos hitel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ala adam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to do this. Ke avodas zos hitel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ala adam legalos. To reveal kibachol inene ha'olam tamen oravaya. V'chias elukus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hidden in that experience. And he says, the more a person thinks about this, and we should think about it the whole day. We should walk every step that we take on the street, in our house, out of our house, whatever we're busy with, on whatever level of the human experience that we're experiencing, to be conscious of this, to think about this. The world was created with Bara. Man was created with Yatsar. Bara is connected to Choshech. Yatsar is connected to R. And the stars, our job is to reveal the presence of Yud Kei Vav Kei that's hidden within Elokim. The more a person is mizbonin on this all the time, and it's not, that's why I say it's not just a nice Torah, say it over by Sheva Brachas or by a Shabbos table. It's all of Yiddishkeit. We can't move without these Torahs. We can't move 1 inch. The more a person reminds himself of this, naturally is going to be more successful in doing this, in succeeding in this process of revealing Hashem's presence in the world of Paul Yoser Tachlis Yitzirasai, and more he or she is fulfilling the purpose of their existence. A person can reveal the godliness within himself, to feel the presence and the sweetness of God. When a person is engaging the Torah mitzvahs, not just mitzvahs anashim lumada, some societal rote experience of the institutionalized experience of Yiddishkeit, but mamish, to realize we're on a mission and Hashem needs us, and He needs us more than we need Him. Kiviyachol, He sent us here for something, to accomplish something, and we can feel the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our mitzvahs. We can feel the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our limanat Torah. When it comes a Shabbos and it comes a Yontiv, and we do achana, and we're preparing and we're leaving, and our whole life is for Yiddishkeit. So our hearts are filled with this incredible passion and an incredible yearning for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and aware of the light that of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's being revealed within us. But if a person only looks at the world in a way of gashmias, And a person only looks at the externality of life. And a person doesn't all the time want to seek to connect and to remind oneself of the interiority wherein HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence is revealed beyond the mask of the physical world. When a person is eating or a person is drinking, he's just focused on the physical pleasure. Make sure that he has parnasa, make sure that his house is Mesudar and building a nice house and building a third wing, without any interior understanding of what am I here for? What am I here for? What am I here for? What was I sent to this world to accomplish? Why? Why? Which is connected to the princess, which is connected to Malchus. Why? The Tachlis. Why were we sent here? Just on the Gashmi Shitchias external level, just to fulfill his taiva. When a person acts in such a way, because it's all totally in us. And the more we experience the world in a way of Gashmi, the more we cause that the physical element of concealment in the world should be magbir, should be stronger. And the more a person reveals the godliness within the world, the more it's a little bit more revealed in the world. And the more the world becomes closer and closer to Moshiach, which is why the Baal Shem Tov told Moshiach told the Baal Shem Tov that when your Torah spreads to the whole world, Moshiach will come, because the Baal Shem Tov teaches us how to live in such a way. And the more that we live in such a way, the more that it happens. Like the teaching that we sent out through LPI today, or Shmuel Braun, where he teaches over there that Mamish, from the Ishbitzer, that the whole world is a dream. And depending on how we interpret it, that's how it actually is. And so we're sent here to do this, to be holy soldiers of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Mamish, not for ourselves, but for Hashem, for all of Am Yisrael, for the whole world, to be connected to the Tachlis, Mamish, the Tachlis, like the Tachlis, to reveal a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world. The more we do that, the more it's revealed. Hariban Hagazui says, right, a person that's engaged only in the Gashmias causes the concealment to be stronger. All of his limbs remain physical Gashmias, the Bechinas Bara, just creation. You're not a person. Atem Krim Adam, only Am Yisrael, by virtue of the Torah. Otherwise, you're just part of creation and not part of God. Because the body is the inyan of Elokim, which is why the Shem Elokim and Yud Kevavke were utilized in creating man, because the body is Elokim, is Hester, and the neshama is the inyan of Yud Kevavke. So the more that a person engages in creation and with life on the level of the guf, that's magbir, the koach haguf, which is the inyan of creation, which is the inyan of Bereishis, Bara Elokim es Hashmayim es haaretz. For the more a person identifies with the chelik elokami ma'al bifnim, and a person lives life primarily for the purposes of the neshama, and it's a battle and it's difficult and it's not as easy as I'm making it sound. I mean, all of us know this, that it's a battle and it's a struggle and it's difficult, but at least we know where we're going if we learn about it, about what we're trying to accomplish. It makes it so much easier. But the more a person lives life for the purpose of the soul, then you're nichlal in Adam, and that's the inyan of Yatsira. And that's the inyan of Yatsar R, as opposed to Bereishis, and it all depends on how we are living. Such a person is not going to be able to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence within himself in that life. And a person is not going to merit to this very lofty, incredible light of das, of awareness, and asaga lahargish nayam Hashem, to taste the sweetness of God's presence. But a person's mind will become closed and numb, and will still be nichlal within the standard creation of nature about which is written, Bereishis bara Elokim. It's going to be bar, it's going to be empty, it's going to be void, and it all depends on our consciousness. And Hashem sent the Baal Shem Tov to prepare the world for Moshiach, a time about which the Psukim say, Umala Aretz Das as Hashem Kamayim Li'amachasam, and the world will be filled with a clear revelation of godliness. This is what Torahs like this are getting us ready for. L'chein, and we finish with this. L'chein, Kasher Adam Rayashein Ruach Hashem Kaskes Bekir Boy. When a person feels that we don't experience the Ruach Hashem ringing within our souls, and we feel that we cannot perceive godliness. Yeda, this is a little bit strong. You have to make yourselves a little bit strong to hear this. Yeda, person should know that on an ultimate level, it's up to us. And it's not anything that Hashem did. It's something that we are doing or not doing to ourselves. It's because of how we're choosing to engage in creation. So of course we're not going to feel like Kadosh Baruch Hu when we put no effort into being conscious when we make our brachas, or being conscious when we're eating or going to sleep, or any other experiences, or doing business and relationships and so on and so forth. It's us. It's on us. And then we come to tefillah and we say, Ribono Shel Olam, why don't I feel you? And Hashem says, I'm here. Right? But you have to create the vessels to allow for the revelation to come to the fore in every aspect of life, so that you can be magbir, the Shem Havaya, which is related to the neshama, over the guf, which is connected to the Shem Elokim, which is Hester, the Yatsira over the Bria. V'tzarich lis oirer, and as in koyach shlita the Shem Elokim, ve'in kvoid Havaya misgala ba'olam hayada. And a person has to awaken himself from this. We're going to go 2 minutes over time. I hope you'll forgive me. We have to get to the end of this important piece. Is how a person needs to wake up from this. As myself, there's no better time than today. Today, we were sent to do this today. No matter what the past was, and it makes no difference. Today, to change today, and to start to live in such a way. To make a conscious effort when we're eating dinner later, whatever Nakuta, to make a conscious effort to say, Ribono Shel Olam, you are present in this process, and it is the unique mission of Am Yisrael to reveal the Yatsira within the Bria, the Or mitoich HaChoshech, the Yud Kevavke within the Shem Elokim, Baruch, to draw down that Ata Hashem Elokeinu, and therefore Melech HaOlam. Hanistaros Hashem Elokeinu v'haniklas lanu ulavanenu, to reveal that. That's our job. And the more a person realizes this, and to engage in the world with pure thoughts, with thoughts that are connected to the Tachlis. Without doing this, it's not going to happen. And this is a unique feature of the Tosher Rebbe's Torah, but I think our Chaver is ready for this already. It's very Musar oriented. It's very sharp. It's very strong. But once you understand with how much love and with how much incredible compassion these teachings are giving over, and with how much sense it makes, and how deep and how broad, makes it a little bit easier to, but you have to make yourself strong when you come to learn these teachings. So he says a very strong thing. You can cry out however much you want. And beg, no, I really want to feel you. I want to feel you. I really want it. You can cry about that. I want to be close to you. And he says, and he says, no, but I really mean it. Remains this errands. In Yiddish, you mean it. It's not going to practically help you. Precious as it is, real as it is, authentic as it is, but it's not ultimately going to contribute to the actual practical revelation of a Kadosh Baruch Hu within you. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes to the Karvei love. You don't need to convince HaKadosh Baruch Hu to draw you close. Hashem wants you to be close with him much more than he wants him to be close, than you want him to be close to you. More than you want to come close to Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes to the Karvei love. Hashem wants to be close to you. But the world was created with systems of nature, natural ways in which things happen or don't happen. And this is how Hashem created the world. It is on us. Hashem is standing at the ready all the time, equally accessible. It's on us. It's like putting on tefillin, the same way you can't eat matzah and be mechaven for me, and I should be yotzei my mitzvah with your achilas matzah. And you can't put on tefillin for me. Kachi says such a deep thing. Hashem can't be yotzei us in our chiyuv of specifically actively participating in the revelation of his light. He can't be yotzei us with that. It's on us. It's like putting on tefillin. It's like achilas matzah. You could beg your friend and say, Mamish, but I want you to be yotzei me with tefillin. He says, very nice, but I can't. And that's mamish what it is with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem says, it's on you. It's on me. And Just by begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu and saying, no, I want to be close to you, not tefillah. He says tefillah helps also. He speaks about this in other places. But just to say this without doing anything, to make that a reality in your life, who writes of this. It's very nice. A non-Jew could also want this very much. Why shouldn't he want this? If it comes easy, who writes a list because the Gan Eden, he also wants Gan Eden. But he doesn't want to do anything in order to make that happen. So it comes with work. It comes with effort. Therefore, and with this will end that a person needs to wake up. And I don't like speaking in such a way to other chaver because it's really speaking to me. So you're just overhearing, but we're all learning from the tzaddik. So it's not me saying this, giving musar. I could only speak to myself. So myself, I need to wake up. I'm going to say me. I need that I need to wake up from my sleep. To change my ways. Should be woken up and shaken. To let go of the taivas haguf. To let go of it. It's empty, it's bara, it's void of light, it's void of satisfaction, it's void of meaning, it's void of anything that we want. Forget about what the guf wants and the neshama. Well, we don't want it. Let go of it already. Let go of it already. Lashanis is our herga b'poyam mamish, and to take steps to change the way in which we live. Through this, Mamish, this world will be the sweetest, most glorious, revelatory tool to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, Mamish, on the level of Olam Haba. These Kalaras Hadas, L'siyata Deshmaya, a person will be Zocha to the clear Hashgacha, Hashem's presence in his life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yerle Hasagas Ve'etzes Heichla of the belief of Shalom, and Hashem will fill our hearts with such depth and such illumination. Ve'etzes and advice, Heichla of the belief of Shalom, how to serve him properly, V'yizkalis Alis Tamid Yoser V'yoser, and to further and further reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. Ki b'chol ilu sheyasal Hashem, Yavali Ili Yisera Mizeh. Every step we take up, it's going to be a new staircase to go and to climb higher and higher. Like we said, through this we're going to bring Moshiach, Chaver like us, through living in this way, not just to talk about it, to live it. We are going to become tremendous bastions of the Shechina's presence, that a person looks at us and sees a Gilu Shechina. But this is the whole Rosh Hashanah, but this will end. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu should reveal his kingship and reign sovereign over the world in his glory. That all of these expressions of a world in which we live in the conscious awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we can do that, and we can bring that. And each and every one of us that is living in such a way, we're a little chelik of Moshiach. The Maranayim, the tzaddikim say that each person has a chelik of Moshiach inside of ourselves. That means that we need to transform our lives and transform our eyes so that we're already living on the level of Moshiach and Olam Haba, even in this world. This is the Torah of Baal Shem Tov. This in one Torah, in one piece. It took a little bit of a longer time than I expected, and we'll finish now. In one piece, this is the whole Torah Baal Shem. Every teaching that you're going to find in all the thousands of Sfarim and the millions of pages, it is all just trying to find more and more unique ways to communicate this one truth. If you have this, you have everything. Not you, you already have it. If I have this, if I don't have this, I have nothing. This might be one of the most foundational teachings that I've ever seen in any of the Sfarim. Mamish. I mean, I think the Chaver here will agree with me. This is it. This is Mamish. We have to review this all the time. This is a Torah to take with us, so that we should be Zoicha ultimately. And he finishes here. Kol Yatsar Kol Asher Neshama Ba'apoy. When we connect to the Neshama within ourselves, Hashem Elekei Yisrael Melech Umalchusay B'Kol Mashal B'Mheira. The done. Amen. That we should be able to experience this in a way of actualization, to experience this, to live life in this way, so that more and more that we're living this way, we can actually impact the world and reveal the Shechina Chevra. This is it. This is the whole thing. This Sefer Avodas Avodah, which we're going to be learning a lot from this year, Be'ezras Hashem. This is there's a sefer that, like I began the shiur with, I'm going to be doing a series of videos with Meaningful Minute every single week, releasing a short video. If we can give this over to our children, and if we can give this over to our students, and if we can remind ourselves of this all the time, it changes everything. And this is what kids want. And I'll end with this. They're yearning for depth. They're yearning for big, broad-mindedness. We need to teach them Gemara and Mishnayos and Halacha for sure. But without the Kli of Yiras Shamayim, we have nowhere to put all of that stuff. It needs a bias. It needs a foundation. It needs a vessel within which to settle. And the vessel is Torahs like these. So thank you so much, Chevra, each and every one of you for joining. Mamash, what a privilege. What a privilege. Wow, yes, Piskami Kodesh. Wow, what a privilege. I was able to be there myself once, many years ago. What a privilege. Ashreinu, 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 all the chevra, whatever they're saying here in the notes. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful. Ashreinu, Ashreinu. Baruch means to kneel. Baruch ata. We want to make that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bend down. What a schus. Okay, so wishing everybody the most amazing Shabbos. This is a phenomenal start to a year that's full of warmth. I have a very good feeling about this winter. I think it's going to be a very warm winter. I don't know physically, but I know that spiritually we have a lot of stuff planned, a lot of programs, a lot of amazing things. Thank you for being a part of it and for journeying with me on this journey. Wishing you everybody a most beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. I'm looking forward to seeing you hopefully Tuesday night. We might switch it to Monday night. I have to see. We're going to be releasing a schedule of shiur in Be'ezer Hashem at the beginning of next week. 4-hour Sichas Haran shiur b'siyata d'shmaya. Okay, Chaver, thank you so much. Tell your friends about LPI. Tell your friends about the shiurim. Share the links. Share the shiurim with Chaver. It could change someone's life. A Torah like this. You heard this thing, it could change your whole life. So we should all be a part of Harbatzas, HaTorah, and Hafatzas Hamayonos. Ashrecha, Ashrecha. Thank you so much. Ashreinu, Chaver. Have a beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. Ashreinu, Mamish. Ashreinu, Chaver.